the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We got AJ, we got Rudo. We are talking draft today for the most part. We'll be getting into some of the risers, fallers, why the Avs should just trade the damn pick. But before we get into all that,
like we talk about every episode.
Yeah.
Just trade it.
Before all of that, the Avs did trade. Technically, it's a trade for Fredrik Olofsson yesterday. They did get him for future consideration, so it's not really a trade. But AJ, I know you've been watching him. You went through a bunch of his stuff. Where are we at with him?
Yeah, so I was thinking about trying to write a film room, and then realized that it was going to be the world's most boring film room. Because it's really just like pulling out little sections of his game and saying, okay, how's this going to fit in Colorado?
Sure.
And I tell you, my number one takeaway from watching a couple of his games, he's really active. And you know, fourth line guys that don't score a lot, you never really know what you're going to get.
Sure.
They come in all different sizes, shapes, and effort levels.
Yep. Do different things. Yeah.
He's really involved in a lot of stuff. He's really quick to get into board battles. He really does not, you know, there are some guys, you know, more like the Dennis Morgan types that are like
a little more skill oriented.
They're a little more like they're willing to do it, but if they don't have to, they would really like a puck.
They'd rather
pop to them
skate into that open space.
Yes, exactly. And Olofsson was a guy that when I was watching him, it was easy to see why Dallas liked him. Mm-hmm. But I would also, it was also important to note that maybe the line that he was on could be considered the worst offensive line in hockey, next to Radek Faksa and Luke Glendening.
A guy in Faksa who completely forgot how to score in Dallas.
Yeah, and Luke Glendening, for my money, might be the worst offensive player in the NHL.
I think you could make an argument for that.
He's
sure
horrible.
Yep.
Really good defensively, great center guy, you know, all that stuff. Anyway, but with Olofsson, you are talking about a guy that his skating is fine, the size is fine. The physicality is fine. Like a lot of it you're watching, and I would say a lot more exciting than Dryden Hunt was when they claimed him.
Which I think we should clarify here. You can pretty much consider this a waiver claim, right?
Yeah, I would definitely start. I would say that Olofsson is he's gonna be a guy that gets a chance. Like. I don't even want to pencil him into the roster or anything like that.
In training camp. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I think he's going to be one of what will end up being probably a 7 to 10 player.
Him, Ben Myers will be on that list.
Right. But I mean,
maybe even a Foodie. Yeah,
exactly. Like you're going to be next year's version of Charles Hudon and you know, those types of guys. You are talking about, there is a very good chance he ends up playing majority of his games in Loveland. Mm-hmm. There's a reasonable chance he plays a bunch of games in Denver.
Yep, I think it could definitely go either way. I will say, and I did tweet this, there's also a chance if he doesn't make the Avs lineup out of training camp, he gets claimed by someone else.
Yeah, and he was up and down so many times this year that and nobody took him, that it makes you feel like
you think you can probably do it.
We'll see, but this is also like the first external move that the Avs made in their offseason, so clearly, like,
right, they were
prioritizing
hard up for this guy a little bit.
Level,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it was. It will be interesting to see, but really, like, I don't want to get anybody too hyped or too down on it right now. He's a squarely in the mix for the bottom of the forward core depth kind of.
Put a little star next to him for someone to watch in training camp, basically.
Yeah, definitely next to all the college guys.
Yeah.
We can put Olofsson into that pile as well right away.
Sounds about right with him. So not a major first salvo from the Avs in the offseason.
Yeah,
but
and it's fine. Like it really.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah. You just really can't get the needle. If this is a move that moves your needle's probably a little sensitive.
Yeah, agree. I think that's a good way to put it. Speaking of needle moving, though, NHL Draft Combine is over. Mm-hmm. We've seen a couple of risers, a couple of fallers, a couple of interesting draft lists, to say the least.
Yeah, as always.
Yeah, there always are, of course. Not trying to make anything unusual about that. But, AJ, who's the sleeper of this draft?
Is it Adam Fantilli? Like the way that people are
it's
talking
crazy
about
that
him,
he's not a hard lock at 2 to me.
I'll tell you, if Anaheim takes either Carlsson or Michkov at 2.
I'm with you on Michkov. I could 100% see that. I would not take Leo Carlsson over
that
Adam
you're real down on
Fantilli
him compared to people, but I'm blown away at the conversations, man, because Adam Fantilli was a dominant USHL player.
Yep.
Under like,
also keep in mind the USNTDP plays a bunch of college teams too.
Yeah, I mean, he was a dominant USHL player.
Sure.
As a 15-year-old.
Yep.
You know, he goes, his freshman year at Michigan is one of the best freshman years that we've seen. Mm-hmm. You know, on the level of Paul Correa and Jack Eichel.
Freshmen don't do that in the NCAA. Like,
and the ones who have gone on to be extremely good NHL players.
Yeah.
He has size, he has skating, he has the works. The one like criticism of him is that he took a back seat to Connor Bedard at Bedard's historic WJCs.
I just don't. Who cares about? We could have a whole conversation about how I think the WJCs gets way overvalued in prospect scouting a lot of the time. But
yeah, those international tournaments, they're useful because it's top peer group against top peer group.
I don't think they're not valuable. Don't get me wrong. They're very valuable, but you see people completely change their lists based on one tournament.
Yeah, and that's also, you see at the end of the year when a guy goes and has a great U18.
Yep.
You know, you look at Ryan Leonard is a great example of this. Mm-hmm. A guy that maybe should be more like in the 15 to 20 range is being talked about as a top 10
potential.
Yeah, as a top 10 guy, and we had him like 6. We had him like 6 or 7 in our initial mock. I think we had him go 5 to Montreal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, yeah, you look at Slavkovsky last year, where that end of the year helium and from those international competitions can really do something. And it's kind of silly. I mean, you look at Vitaly Kravtsov is a great example of why it can be not so great.
Yeah, I mean
that was a very predictable.
I think that one was very, very predictable.
He was an okay KHL player all year. Had an unbelievable KHL playoff and ended up a top 10 pick. Not a goaltender, but okay. We were talking about that happening.
It's one of those things where you can't make decisions about a player's ability based on one good month.
Yeah.
You have to look at the player as an entire package. And not to take anything away from Ryan Leonard, I'm not saying he's not going to be a really good prospect.
Sure, he was just an example, but yeah. And so when you talk about sleeper, I mean, I've just been, obviously Adam Fantilli's not a sleeper, but I've been really surprised at how the conversation has shifted around him from
for sure number 2.
He's going to be a franchise center. He's going to do this. He's going to do that too. But Leo Carlsson might be better. What if Leo Carlsson is Sasha Barkov?
Is this not a little bit of less of a knock on Fantilli necessarily, but the media always usually tries to play up the 1-2, like, oh, maybe the guy at 2 is actually better than 1, except for Bedard's just so much better than everyone else in this draft.
I keep seeing the occasional, like, what if he could, could this guy be better? And you're like, yeah, it's possible. That's extremely unlikely.
The thing about 18-year-old kids is sometimes things go weird. But
I will say about Fantilli and Carlsson though, because Fantilli has been compared to McKinnon, and Carlsson has been compared to Barkov.
Yep.
If we redid 2013, the Avs take McKinnon again.
Oh, no doubt. Don't even think about it.
It's not even a question, correct?
Yep.
Florida could happily take Barkov at 2.
If that's what they want.
It's all good. It would still make sense.
I don't know. It's certainly at the top of that draft. I think you're still taking Barkov at 2.
But would anybody out there take Barkov over McKinnon? I think there are probably a handful of people who would say, well, because of his defense, it's all around.
It seemed like LA is trying to talk themselves into him as like the next Kopitar or something.
Yeah, the thing with this Fantilli versus Carlsson conversation is, even if you use those comps and you say, okay, those guys are going to turn out just like those guys did, just like the comps did.
Cool.
You're taking McKinnon.
Fantilli/McKinnon is still just better, right?
So what are we doing here? Yes, you can love Leo Carlsson. You could think he's going to be very good.
Yep.
But
why not take
Adam Fantilli,
the better player? Yeah.
Adam Fantilli has a much cleaner profile for me, especially because we're talking about him as a franchise center who played center.
That does help. Yeah, to me, it's not even a conversation. I don't think it's that close with Carlsson coming against Fantilli. Now
Carlsson versus Michkov, I think you could have a really good,
for sure.
It's wing versus center. It's the timeline. It's waiting the 3 years versus maybe waiting 1 year.
I think
there are plenty of viable aspects of that being a real conversation. But to me, the Fantilli Carlsson thing has blown me away.
Yeah,
it's Fantilli.
100%. It's
if
Fantilli.
If you don't take Fantilli too, Pat Verbeek has blown us already.
If you're not taking Fantilli, you should be trading the pick. I'll put it that way.
All right, that's intense.
Why not?
What would you give for that pick?
As the Avs, probably not a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't consider like a. I mean, it would be like Newhook, Byram, your first, Barons,
no,
Olausson.
I'd give the first, obviously.
Okay.
And then, like the first and what? Oh,
so you're saying it just wouldn't be worth it? Oh no.
Oh God, it's all falling apart. I would give.
You're saying it just wouldn't be worth it for them? It'd be too detrimental if they have to take too many guys.
So like, if it was like the first Olausson and Barons, sure.
What for second overall?
For Fantilli? Yeah.
Second overall?
Yeah. Like if it was that cheap, I would do it.
Well, yeah, but if it was that cheap, Pat Verbeek is high.
I wouldn't.
Pat Verbeek had all the gummies that I did the other day.
I certainly wouldn't have Byram in the conversation. No way.
Okay.
Newhook, it gets a little bit more complicated at that point. But
what are we talking about here? Okay.
Are they guys trying to win a cup now, or are they trying to win a cup in 3 years?
What are you talking about? The guy's going to be the NHL next year.
I think he'll be in the NHL next year. I don't know that he can be the Avs 2C next year.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Well, I'm blown away by this answer, but okay, cool.
Moving on.
Like you could easily sell me on. It is too detrimental to the NHL roster to mess with
that's
it.
more or less what I'm getting at.
But yeah, just like we'll give them stuff for a second overall pick.
And look, I don't want to say no, I'd never do it, because if he wants to do a stupid trade, I would absolutely take Adam Fantilli.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to blow up my NHL roster to do it.
Okay. Anyway, we can move on. I thought that was going to go a different way.
It didn't.
It did not.
I do want to touch on the Carlsson versus Michkov thing, though.
Okay.
Because I think it does become more interesting. We've talked a lot about Michkov is going to end up going to a team that's willing to be a little bit more patient, that can wait for him to come over.
Mm-hmm.
With Carlsson, is there a team that would try to move Carlsson into the NHL right away?
Well, that's where I think Columbus makes sense for him.
Okay.
Because Columbus just made the exact kind of moves that said, we are looking to try
doors open, come on in.
We are trying to push for the postseason right now.
Yeah.
And how they kind of work, if you're Columbus, how they kind of work that whole thing out will be interesting. With their center depth, because with Jack Roslovic and Boone Jenner, Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger. You add Leo Carlsson to that mix.
Yeah.
I mean, Columbus makes sense for that reason because they could put him into that lineup right away. A center is the one thing that they absolutely desperately need.
So bad.
Is like a top center. They're fine. You know, that list of guys that I named, they're fine down the middle if they want to. And I know Kent Johnson is playing wing.
Yeah. Well, which I think he's better at wing for the record.
I've always projected him that's where he would end up.
Yeah.
But still, when you don't have one,
you just got to do what you got to do.
And so you do look at Columbus's timeline. You do look at the recent moves that they've made, their aggression of, hey, we want to try and push. I think would lead more towards a Carlsson makes more sense for them.
Okay. I can buy that for sure. You know, I look at San Jose and you see a team that is nowhere when it comes to San Jose, right?
Yeah, San Jose is in that really weird spot where they've got old expensive guys that they need to try and find homes for.
That aren't good enough to compete together still, really.
Yeah, and so they just re-signed Tomas Hertl last year to an 8-year deal. You know, they've got many more years of Logan Couture.
He has 3 or 4 left.
Yeah, they've got Marc-Edouard Vlasic still has a lot of money left to pay out.
Obviously, EK.
Yeah, Erik Karlsson is there. What do you do with that? Like you're clearly rebuilding, but you have quality NHL veterans.
Flip Hertl to the Avs for pennies, and then the Avs celebrate.
They're so expensive though that it's hard to move those guys.
Particularly, I think Vlasic and EK are very difficult to move. EK because that contract is nuts. Vlasic because he's just not any good anymore.
Yeah,
those two, I don't know what they do with their defense. I really don't know. Couture, I think you could probably find value. You might have to take a kind of a bad deal because of the years left.
Yeah.
And then Hertl, you should get a king's ransom for, really. But
definitely. But that's where they, them getting into, they have a really strong U.S. pipeline, drafting U.S. kids. So Will Smith is there. I think Will Smith is probably we had him going to Columbus in our original mock. I would still have him going there.
Sure.
But it is still like Will Smith is somewhere in there. Yeah,
you get into those conversations of just who's at the top of that team's list in the top 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with Carlsson, it just feels like to me lately, it just feels like it's gotten a little
over the top. I
feel like it's gotten a little silly.
I actually agree with this. I don't love Carlsson, but the idea that he'd be outside of like the top 6 is crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's no way that I can't.
I've seen some lists that have him at like 8, and I'm like, what?
That's too much, man.
Yeah,
I would comfortably take Bedard, Fantilli, and Michkov ahead of Carlsson. I will have the Will Smith conversation,
but even then, you're taking him at 5 at the latest.
Exactly, man. Like I'm very clearly not Leo Carlsson's biggest fan, but. This idea that he's somehow not a top 5 guy would be crazy to me.
I just don't understand.
So the idea of him dropping out of top 5 is absurd. The idea of him pushing Fantilli to me is absurd. There's a very small area that it feels like between 3 and 5 exists there.
And the thing is, like, I think Leo Carlsson's a super safe pick.
Yeah.
You have a pretty big size center who plays well defensively from a country that produces defensive first players. The dude's like guaranteed to be an NHLer. Now, how high is the offensive ceiling? We'll see.
This is where his season reminds me, not the player himself, but his season reminds me of Elias Lindholm.
Sure.
And that because you remember he tore up the SHL.
Yep.
Broke all those records, was like this all-time SHL.
Did all the things,
you know. And got talked about like he was going to be that guy. And the timeline on him was a little bit longer for the offense to really come around. Now that it has, you look at him and you're like, wow, what a complete player.
Yep.
But it took 5 years.
And I could 100% see Carlsson on a similar
And that's what I'm saying.
path.
If you take Leo Carlsson, are you comfortable with the idea
that he's not who he's going to be
that you might
get 4
get,
or 5 years?
You might get a 3C.
Yep.
Maybe a 2 or 3C for the first 5 years of his career. And then the big leaps will come. Nico Hischier would be another fine comp there. That's fine.
A little bit more. I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but.
it's just more of an. You're taking him, and he's got so much hype attached to him. That
you have to give him the runway.
You're going to get an immediate return because I do think with Bedard and Fantilli,
you should be getting immediate returns.
Those are teams that are going to get immediate high-end returns from those guys within 3 years. And I don't know if that's true for Carlsson. Now, within 5 years, Carlsson might catch Fantilli.
Oh, for sure.
And the two-way, he might be an exceptional defensive center, and that obviously has tons of value in the NHL.
In its own way. But yeah, does that offense kick in a couple years later?
Exactly. And so I think that would be my Carlsson conversation where, and if I'm waiting 5 years on the guy to be that good, I'm right back to Michkov and saying, I think he's going to come over and be a game changer on
year 3. Yeah.
So I've waited 3 more years for him. I think he's going to come over and be ready to go when he gets here.
Yeah. I think you could maybe even have a conversation about Michkov at 2 if you were willing to wait. But
well, and especially Anaheim, I know you're trying to get us out of this.
No, you're not wrong.
I do think with Anaheim, because they have Trevor Zegras, because they have Mason McTavish,
some of those young pieces,
they should be open to the idea of Matvei Michkov, maybe more so than both Columbus and San Jose.
Yep.
And we know Montreal's out on the Michkov conversation. It's already been a no-go.
Yep.
And talking to Craig Morgan, it doesn't sound like the Coyotes know if they're in or out on Michkov yet.
I can't imagine you're playing on him getting to 6. But anyway, if you're not high on Leo Carlsson, maybe you can get high on Leo Carlsson, if you know what I mean.
The Kind Love gummies that I had the other day.
That good, huh?
They did the trick.
Kind Love is a local business here in Colorado. We're super stoked to be partnering with them as a dispensary here. They're one of the first dispensaries ever in Colorado. They've been around since 2010, and they're known for cultivating some of the highest quality cannabis in the state. They give a consistent experience, and they are just great at what they do. Quality, integrity, variety, and safety is what they're all about. Tons of different products, including their Turbo Core. Turbo Core is a 100 milligram stick that looks exactly like a toothpick. It's full spectrum cannabis concentrate designed with a pointed tip so you can easily slide it into any joint, blunt, or cigarette to instantly infuse it. So
can confirm.
That
does
easy.
Look like a toothpick.
Just shove it in there and you're smoking weed. Look at that. Well, I don't know what your story is.
Okay, so firsthand experience with the turbo joint. I went and saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse the other day, and I smoked half of my turbo joint on my way in and walked into the wrong theater. Didn't quite realize. Watched about the first 10 minutes of the new Transformers movie.
Nice.
Kind of thought it was just a really long exclusive preview
Amazing.
of the film. And then I just took my water bottle, my giant water bottle, which is always the thing banging off camera if you guys can ever hear that thing, and my bowl of popcorn, and I scooted my way over to the theater and still enjoyed my movie. But yeah, definitely high movie.
Turbo joint,
high
turbo
movie
effective.
moment. It was really bad. But yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
There you go. So if you want to get way high, you can do that with Kind Love. They also have things like their rookie products, so you don't have to get high as a kite if you don't want to. Take your choices down at Kind Love. And when you walk in, make sure you're looking good with Pins and Aces, the official golf apparel merchandiser of DNVR. Man, I mean, the golf course is probably a great place to bring their turbo sticks too, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a person that smokes a lot of weed, but on a golf course, a beer, a joint, you're feeling good out there. That's all I'm saying.
Helps the swing.
There you go. So a little bit of swing juice, a little bit of swing smoke, you're feeling good.
Exactly. Swing juice it is.
Check out pinsandaces.com today. Use the DNVR code to get 10% off your entire order. They've got hats, they've got polos, they've got pants, they've got cleats. They're honestly, my favorite product is still their towel. I think their golf towels are so sick. But go over there, check out what you can find at Pins and Aces. She already mentioned the liquor stick. If you want to be serving drinks from your golf bag, they also have the beer sleeve. You can bring beers onto the golf course with you. Super awesome. Pinsandaces.com. Order yours today. There you go. Birdie juice. Love it. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. AJ, is David Reinbacher still the number one defenseman in this class?
I don't know, man.
I've seen the defense is all over the place after this
really weird
combine, dude.
Do you the first mock draft we did, it was Reinbacher is the clear one.
Yep.
Axel Sandin Pellico
was
the
clear two. Now,
and then there was an ocean.
Yeah.
And then it was, well, how do we feel about
the Russians?
And how do you feel about Guliev? How do you feel about
Simashev?
Yes, Simashev in particular. Where are we on those guys? And now it feels like Simashev is way up there, and Guliev has moved down a little bit. But the guy that has really jumped into the conversation, Tom Molendyk.
Yeah, some lists have him like pushing the top 10 even.
And I think that's a little rich for my blood. And I've come around to really like him. And it's mostly the tools are fine, but it's the competitiveness that really rises him, that gives him an extra.
I understand why you like him.
Because that's one of those things that when you get into, okay, I don't see a major separation of skills. There are serious pros and cons to all the defensemen when we talk about the second half.
Pretty much all, other than Reinbacher, I'd say pretty much all of them have a drawback.
Like a really clear. And my big question with Reinbacher is he that good?
Right. How high's the ceiling?
Yeah. If he ends up a second pairing guy, who gives a team 35 points a year and plays like solid defense, like, that's fine.
You feel great about picking that guy at 15. You don't feel so good about picking him at 6.
Exactly. You really, if you're going to take him in the top 10, especially because the forward class this year is as talented and as deep as it is.
Yeah.
You're taking a defenseman at that point because you want the defenseman.
Yep.
Not because you think he's going to be the best NHL player.
It's because that's what fits your organization.
And there are some organizations you look at St. Louis at 10.
Who desperately need defense.
I said in the Discord last night, St. Louis should use all 3 first rounders on defensemen. If they're going to make,
that might be a little
they're
going to
make picks. Yeah, it's true. They should really take 2 defensemen and a goaltender. But
we're not having this conference.
We are going to in a second.
I'll take Gajan then.
But
Gajan, I don't know how to say his last name. Just for the memes.
That's a bad reason. But with Reinbacher, I think that everybody's so comfortable with him and his game that now they're starting to talk themselves in. This is the draft thing, is that you start to talk yourself into things that you don't see with a guy like a Dmitry Simashev.
Yep.
Where you see great size, you see elite mobility for that size. You see a little bit of physicality, you see a little flashes of offensive upside. And you start to say, "Oh my God, what if he puts all that together? What if those flashes turn into every night occurrences? We could be talking about a dominant 2-way defenseman,
and that's
who fits into the modern game, but also has the size and physicality of like the old school guys. But he can still move pucks and he can still do a little bit of everything.
That is and that's the idea of the modern defenseman, right?
Now I'm sitting here at the 9th overall as the Detroit Red Wings, going, what if I put this guy next to
a Mo Sider?
Next to Mo Sider. What? Oh my God! Am I about to change the world?
You have 2 giant defensemen that just run people over.
Is this the Iser plan? Just coming to fruition in front of me? Have I just smoked all of Kind Love's products? Like that's where we are in the draft cycle of. Yep. Especially when it comes to defensemen.
Yeah.
But you see it a little bit with people, at least for my money. Some people, when they talk about a guy like Matthew Wood, we are like, what are you guys doing with this? Or Colby Barlow is the one now that
I don't like Barlow at all.
with Barlow, you're just like, oh my gosh.
Like, I could be convinced with Wood. I think part of his conversation especially is, hey, look, that's a kid who played college. It's not like he's just, I'm big and large and beating up a bunch of junior kids. He's learning how to use that size against men.
He was the youngest college player in the country.
Exactly. So
I think there's a lot of things to like about a guy like Matthew Wood, but I think that where we have gotten in the defenseman conversation, that has made the question, your original question of is Reinbacher still one, murky, because I think we've gotten into the cycle where I saw somebody the other day talking about Tom Willander as maybe a possibility for Philadelphia at 7, and I was like,
I don't know about that.
I was like, what are we doing here? I really like this guy. I think he could be a good NHL player. But am I gonna take him over Dvorsky or Zach Benson? Am I gonna take him, for me anyway, over Colby Barlow or Quentin Musty? I don't think so.
I wouldn't take him over Musty for sure. Yeah,
I think you and I are gonna end up in the same place on Musty.
Well, that makes one of like our 5.
Yeah, right.
The thing that's weird for me is we're in that stretch of it where it's all the defensemen except for Pellikka. Pellikka's the one that's like moving down, but I've even seen lists that have Bonk in the teens.
I have also seen some Bonk in the middle of the first round.
I am Bonk's number 1 fan here, and I would not take that guy before 20. Like,
well, because with Bonk, you are asking a very legitimate. What's he going to give you on offense?
Right. And like I'm a believer of Bonk's ability more so to move pucks out of his own zone to get breakouts going than his actual offensive zone ability.
Yeah.
A bit of a sucker for a decent shot, which he does have, but if you're drafting that guy, you're understanding certainly in the early part of his career, you're just not going to get a ton out of him in the offensive zone.
Yeah. I mean, if you're drafting him at 27, if Colorado drafts Oliver Bonk at 27, we say, hey, especially in Colorado.
Yep.
Especially if they find a way to keep Taves and Girard and Pyram and Makar.
The big 4.
Yeah. The Northmen. If they're able to keep the Northmen together.
You just need him to be
your Bonk expectations are like
be a bottom pairing shutdown.
You're like, hey, be really good defensively, and if you give us 20 points a year, we're thrilled.
I mean, I think
if they move on from one of Taves or Girard, especially, then you're saying, hey, we want you. We would love for you to end up on that second pair,
more like a 30-point guy,
and be more of a 30 to 35-point guy. Our comment section says Bonk's ceiling is Girard. I think that's fair.
And if you get Girard out of Bonk, you love it.
Now, I don't want people to think that we're going to compare Bonk to Girard.
They're
as a
not the same at all.
They're completely different types of players.
Statistically speaking.
Yes, exactly. When you're talking about production-wise, you're going to get a solid defender who gives you 30 points a year.
Like if you understand who Bonk is, the one drawback I would have is if you're drafting him, the first thing you're going to and telling him to do is, look, you got to use your physicality more.
Dude, please use your size.
Yep. Because if he can't do that, he might not make the NHL.
And that's where I think you have a question mark about drafting him, about targeting him is if he doesn't get in the mindset of I need to use my size, I need to be more physical, I need this and that, I need these things to happen. That developing a guy's skills and developing a guy's attitude,
two very different things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think trying to get him because he's got the bloodlines and because he's with the hey, I understand. I've seen up close. What
he should understand the whole package of what an NHL player
the dedication. The, hey, you've got to play a certain way here. There should be a certain level of maturity and polish there as a person, where you can convey that message and say, hey, this is what we want out of you. This is what we need to see a little bit more of. But if you don't feel like you can get that, there are so many other interesting guys in this area.
Well, even guys maybe outside that area. You look at Pellikka, who's probably not going to make it to 27.
But if he did, I mean, I'd sure take him. He's such a good skater. He's such a good natural puck mover.
Yeah, I would have.
He wouldn't need to run a power play in Colorado, which
Yep.
is like one of those big knocks on him is can he do that?
Mhm.
You could take him and it would be
Not
fine,
a problem
but it
for
would
Colorado,
be like,
yep. I think you feel a lot of the same ways about Gulyayev too.
yes,
You can even throw Dragicevic on that list, who
I'm not a fan.
I know you're out on. So, but all of those guys are going to go somewhere from like 18 to 50.
Yeah.
Sell me on Molendyk.
So the thing about Tanner Molendyk here is that he is a high-end skater right now. And when you watch him play, I've tweeted this out, but he is the perfect Av. The way that he plays in Saskatoon is the way that the Avalanche play. He's extremely aggressive with the puck. He's very, very good in transition. Now, what you like is that when I say he's very good in transition, it's not just offensively. He is an exceptional transition defenseman. Yep. He's very, very good with the stick. He's very disruptive. One of the things that I loved when the Avs were drafting, when they drafted Bowen Byram and leading up to that class, or leading up to that draft day, one of the reasons that I had talked up Byram the way that I had is that Byram was what I would consider the modern defense. One of the big things that we have seen the impact of analytics is
have that change.
In-zone defenders are less valuable than ever, and guys who defend the blue line. You look at what is the one thing that Jack Johnson has done really, really well over the years, and that the Avs say, hey, we're paying $900,000 for this one skill. It's defending the blue line.
Can't score if you're not in the offensive zone, right?
Denying clean zone entries or zone entries altogether. And Tanner Molendyk is exceptional at this already. He doesn't have great size, but you're not talking about a Sam Girard size kid.
No, he's not that small.
You are talking about average size.
Yep.
Just because there's a 5 there, but it's like 5'11".
Yeah, close enough.
Like
he's not 5'9".
Exactly. Like you're not talking about a guy that is at a serious size disadvantage.
Yeah.
Girard's got the double whammy. He's short with a small frame.
Yep.
Makar
he doesn't get that bowling ball build going
exactly.
on. Yeah.
Makar's 5'11", but he's got really wide shoulders, really, and has the ability. We will see him bulk up quite a bit when he grows into the main.
He's got another 10 to 15 pounds in him. Yeah,
exactly. So, but when you talk about Tanner Molendyk, man, that his size is fine, but he uses it. He uses all of it.
Yep.
He picks his spots. It's not like he's a crazy guy out there. You're not gonna
he's not full Sean Barons.
You're not going to confuse him with like a Radko Gudas. That's what he's doing.
Gudas is a giant human being, also. So
I just mean in terms of his physicality.
Sure, I get what you're saying.
But he will engage, man. And the big thing is where was his production for a guy when you watch him, when you watch all of his highlights, you watch his stuff.
Yep.
You watch him on video, you see you see this dude that is just he's flying.
Yep.
All around the ice.
And has the skating ability. There's no doubt.
Why does this guy have like 30 points this year or whatever?
Why puck no go net?
Yeah, exactly. And you are wondering, okay, so is he just not a very good playmaker? Is he not a very good finisher? Does he have bad teammates? Is it, what I think it's a combination.
A little bit of all
those,
three.
All those things. Because if you add 20 points to his total, I feel like he's an easy first round pick.
Because his skating is arguably the best in this draft class.
Out of a defenseman, I think it's him and Simashev.
Yeah, Simashev's just so good, dude. Is he gonna go top 10? He might.
I'm telling you, dude. Detroit's gonna sit there and be like, or Detroit or St. Louis is gonna sit there and be like,
how do we pass on this?
Vancouver at 11, like Arizona at 12. How does Simashev get by those teams?
If I was running them, he wouldn't.
If Matvei Michkov's not sitting around tempting them, Dmitry Simashev,
that feels like an easy Washington pick. Yeah. You're not wrong on that one.
So the answer, I think we've just talked ourselves into yes.
Simashev is a top 10 pick. It's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the reason that I'm
on, is it Molendyk or Molendyk?
Dyke.
It's Dyke. Okay.
Yeah. So Tanner Molendyk is the bred in a lab to be an Avalanche defenseman, and if he plays anywhere
for
else,
sure
it would be a shame.
It's just hard for me with the Avs at pick 27 because I'd be fine with Molendyk for the record, but the Avs are essentially drafting, especially a defenseman, if they're taking at 27. You're talking about drafting a defenseman 3 years from now is when they're realistically going to be entering your NHL roster, unless they progress very, very quickly.
Yeah, probably.
And
I think that's fair.
I would loosely operate under the idea of at least one of Taves and Girard is gone at that point.
I would as well.
So you really want to get a top 4D out of that pick if you're taking a D.
Yeah, and I can understand if you're picking between Molendyk and Bonk.
That you're just picking stylistically, you're picking two different things there, right?
If they're both on the board, you're looking at it and you're saying one guy is a clear-cut, absolute perfect fit for us. But if we move Girard and Barons becomes an NHLer for us and takes the Girard job,
of that role, do
you want a defense that then has...
Well, you also have you're answering questions beyond that of, 3 years from now, Josh Manson's contract is up.
Sure.
And I get Bonk isn't that physical guy, but maybe as far as a shutdown defenseman goes, you're looking at replacing something like that.
And there could be a number of moves that change all these things in that time anyway. There probably will be.
On June 24th, the Avs could trade for a defenseman and go, okay, well, they're not taking a D anymore at 27, but...
But if you are so what I'm saying here is you trade Girard, Sean Barons graduates, becomes part of your NHL team, is a successful development story for you.
Yep.
He kind of takes the Girard role there.
Sure, as that
then
middle pairing.
Tanner Molendyk, and then you have a couple of those guys. Are you at risk of your defense being too easy to play against?
I do worry about not even necessarily too easy to play against, but a little bit too samey.
Because while Molendyk will be physical, I don't know that he will ever be hard to play against. I don't ever think he will be.
He's not the dude that you get on the ice, you see he's on it and go, oh, geez.
Yeah. Like that, the same way with Makar, you keep your head up.
Yeah, he will catch you.
That guy will light you up if you fall asleep.
But the dude isn't going to rattle every bone in your body
every
time on the ice.
In front of the net, he's not going to absolutely try and scoop your heart out with a spoon.
Exactly.
So I think, and not to say that Bonk will, but I think if you're looking at the two, which guy ends up more...
Bonk has the ability to become a whole lot harder to play against. He's not there.
Which guy maybe fits what you would need in that timeline of them becoming an NHL player?
Yeah.
A little bit better if you're trying to project. Now, if you're just saying we just think this guy's going to be the better player, he's a great fit for us.
It's fine. Yeah,
it just is. He's the better fit.
I don't have any argument against that. The whole reason I like Bonk so much for Colorado is because he's different from what the Avs already have.
Different, but not so different that you're looking at like.
It's not like he can't skate. He can skate just fine.
This is where if you talk about if Andrew Cristall gets to the Avs at pick 27.
Yep.
You love the puck skill. You love the creativity. You love a lot of these things, but you don't love that he is a total misfit.
Yeah.
In terms of his size. His skating.
You look at him and you look at the Avs organizationally and you go, this is destined for failure.
Right. That's the same thing that I feel about with a guy like Matthew Wood. Now, these are two guys that I don't think are going to get to 27.
I agree with everything you just said.
So I don't think it'll be a big deal, but it is a consideration of it's not just the best player, right? It's who's a guy that's going to fit us. And so when you get into some of these, forwards. We talked about this a little bit last night privately, but Do you want to?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Before we get into the forwards.
Yeah. So are there any other defensemen? I saw you talking shit about Bo Aki, and I didn't know why.
Bo Aki is Sampo Ranta, but he plays defense.
Okay.
That's how I feel about him.
So
all the tools in the world.
The reason I like him is because he's very toolsy. Yep. My thing is not a 27. That is a if you
trade back to like 38 or something.
If you trade back for 35 and 55.
Totally.
At 55, I'm in.
Totally.
I'm in.
But I'm so worried about that kid's hockey sense.
Yeah.
Like
I'm with you. But that is a guy that I'm just saying, just on a toolsy level, you watch him play.
The tools are sick.
What is this?
And then you look at him off puck in the defensive zone and you're like, where are you going, bud?
There's a lot of what's happening here with him. Yeah. All right, let's transition out of this so we can talk forwards.
So, if you're looking to draft a defenseman, make sure they're putting some meat on their bones. You gotta bulk up sometimes. You can do that with Illegal Pete's. Delicious burritos, fresh ingredients, all sorts of good stuff for you. No matter what diet you're on, you're trying to bulk up, you're on keto, you're trying to slim down, whatever it is. Illegal Pete's has got a burrito for you. You can go check it out. They also have the longest happy hour in town at 3 to 8 p.m. You can sit out on the patio. Well, don't do that today because it's raining like crazy today. So sit inside today. But when the sun comes out, you can sit out on the patio, enjoy your margaritas with Illegal Pete's deliciousness. 11 different locations in Colorado, including one just a couple blocks from the DNVR bar. So go get some. Have a good time. When you're out on the patio, make sure you're wearing your Shady Rays too. Get those sunglasses on. Don't go blind because of the sun, our arch nemesis around here. It also melts ice. That's why, because, hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also am not a huge fan of the sun.
Moving on. Shady Rays, they've got tons of different beautiful sunglasses for you. All sorts of styles. Even convinced my wife to get a pair of Shady Rays, and she's very picky about her sunglasses.
I got a second pair that matches yours.
Oh, hell yeah.
For us to wear for draft night.
Let's go. Oh, yes. It's going to be so good.
Specifically for that.
I'm so ready.
So stupid.
Go get yours. You can use code DNVR and you get 2 pairs or more. You get 50% off. That's essentially buy one, get one free with Shady Rays. You can go to shadyrays.com to order yours. If you break them, lose them, or just don't like them in the first 30 days, you can get them replaced. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. All right, AJ.
I can always bring this graphic up for the audience too if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we're cool.
Very wrong for the most part.
Okay.
Yes. Are we ready to fight to the death over forwards in the first round, AJ?
Why can't a Tyrannosaurus clap?
Because it's got short little arms.
Tiff, do you know? Because it's extinct. Got it.
I mean,
take that, Tyrannosaurus.
I get technically correct, I guess.
This is the darkest joke Google has ever sent me. I was like, wow, what did Tyrannosaurus do to the Google joke guy?
All right, so
probably an AI, actually.
We need to have Jurassic Park just so we can make a Tyrannosaurus Rex and have it clap to prove that joke wrong.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
That would be awesome. That's it. Jurassic Park opens, and you walk in, and the Tyrannosaurus claps a bunch to welcome you. And then you're like, shit, Google got that wrong. All right, I want to talk about power forwards.
Do we have to?
Yeah, so let's talk about power forwards really quickly.
Okay.
You're not in on Colby Barlow. I am, but
I'm also not in on Hanzek.
My thing about Barlow is I think that he is just your very classic meat and potatoes with a really good shot.
Yes,
I think that his game is extremely translatable. He's fine at everything. There isn't a major standout skill.
I should say that I agree with you. You're going to get a 45-point guy who plays decently on both ends. It will do a bunch of the digging out pucks, things like that. At 27, I would have absolutely no problems with Colby Barlow.
Yeah, except he's going to go like.
And that's why I have a problem with it. Right. And I think that's too high for a guy like that.
Yeah. God, he would actually be a good fit in Pittsburgh.
Just pulled that one out of the hat.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh doesn't need that. They get 45-point guys out of everywhere. They just find those dudes in the AHL.
The Mark Donk.
Yeah.
This
Barlow, I really don't have as many problems with as I do with Hansek's game, though.
Okay, so we feel we're on opposite ends with Hansek. And why is this?
To me, Hansek is the guy that every draft class has this power forward where it's like, all right, cool. He can battle really well in traffic in front of the net, and he has pretty good finishing ability. Mm-hmm. But everywhere else on the ice, I have no idea what I'm going to get out of that guy.
You know, this actually reinforces your case, but you know who he reminds me of, Hansek?
Who?
Paul Bittner.
That is really specific. And like, there is a world where Hansek puts the rest of his game together, and I look like an idiot on this guy.
This is the thing about power forwards, though.
Yeah.
This is the exact conversation about every power forward archetype ever in any draft class.
If they put it together, like,
because
they're a superstar, right?
If you look at power forwards in the NHL, the premier power forward, Makachuk right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at power forwards in the NHL, and you're like, when they hit, they are dominant players.
Yep.
They are impossible to stop.
Yep. But they have to hit.
But you look at all the puck marks, all the little things that have to go right. You have to be able to put together the high-end skill has to be there. So they have to be very naturally gifted. But then they have to be able to grow into that. And a lot of these guys, they grow so quickly as teenagers that they don't get comfortable playing with their size until later in life. So some of those skills, it takes them a while. And Tage Thompson's a great example of this.
And that's part of the problem for me is yes, sometimes it takes them a while. I think Mikko, another good example of a guy who grew into his size a little bit. But a lot of these power forwards that don't end up growing into those things, it's because they got pigeonholed and their game ends up super one-dimensional.
Yeah.
It's exactly what Tage Thompson was before he figured it out.
It's what happened to Lawson Krause.
Yep.
Because he was so good defensively, he got rushed to the NHL.
Yep.
Now you see those pieces have started to come together, and look at his game is starting to break out, and everybody under the sun wants the Avs to trade for him. He'd be a phenomenal fit. He'd be wonderful here.
The baby Landeskog immediately.
That's the thing. It's like if Landeskog can't come back, that's a serious consideration for me next year.
Yep.
I would be making a serious move for that because of all the assets involved and money and blah, 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 blah. If Landy does come back, it's a harder sell for me. But you do love that archetype, though. Like that's another good example of a guy that it's just taken.
You love the archetype 4 years in. On year one,
it's going to take a while. And that's where, if you want to just projecting this into an Avs conversation, I'm out.
Oh, for sure. No, I don't have any interest with the Avs pick, which Hansek won't be there anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
I'm not convinced.
You think he's going to fall?
I don't know that he will, but yeah, this is a really Daniil butt.
Is it butt or boo?
It's boo.
Okay, I assumed it was boo,
but you've got to call him butt when you can. Sorry, but
I'll just call him Danny B. It's fine.
Dude, I like Danny B. Let's go with Danny B. He sounds like one of the T-Birds from Greece.
He did.
Danny B.
100% snapping.
Anyway. Now I'm dying for the Avs draft him. So we can just have this be a bit.
We moved on from the Rambo Santa shirt. We got the Danny B shirt. All right, we're just the next one.
Oh man, the greatest shirt that we never got to sell.
Yeah, it's so sad.
So with Danny B, you are talking the same thing. You're talking about you know that if you read a scouting report of him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's 2013 and I'm reading the Val Nichushkin scouting report. He's got great size. He's a great skater. He's a great everything. Can he put it all together? If he puts it all together, he's a dominant player.
Val, I think, is a little bit better in a straight line.
I do too.
I think I worry a little bit about his top speed.
I think what we saw from Val last year
Sure, with
Where
the
he was
not so good
where he
ankle.
was-
where
he was missing that
I-
extra little
that's
gear.
fair. I like that. I think that's a good
is where I would
comparison.
have
Yeah, I'm with that.
Danny B. I like this Danny B. I don't know why. That's where I would have him. As an
I
NHL,
think that's
as an
good,
NHL player. That's where I would put his ceiling.
Which
You're still talking about a 60-point pace.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like you're talking about a really good player.
just the way he accomplishes things is more about his strength than getting up to speed and flying by dudes.
Yeah, he's way more of the power.
Yeah.
Of the power forward. He definitely is a guy that won't shy away from that, and that's I think one of the more intriguing guys that was not in our mock that will be in our mock next time around.
I'm here for that take.
Power forwards.
In general,
that's kind of where we are. There's a handful of them. They're very interesting.
Yep.
Chat really. So apparently OEL is getting bought out.
Okay.
Just as a off the cuff, I know this is a digression, but we'll definitely talk about this in the next 2 weeks.
That'd be a Monday thing, yeah. I mean, what's the cost, right? Is it $3 million for him?
For me, I'm gonna say he comes here $1 million.
For $1 million in a heartbeat would do it.
$1 million to try and rebuild that value and show that he's, whatever.
I think even at $2 million, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's go.
You give it a try.
Yeah, more than that,
the underlyings are bad.
I know. Okay. I know,
like bad.
But that's a guy who in Colorado you can shelter the hell out of. Like,
would getting OEL on a deal like that make you more comfortable trading Girard?
Yes. Not all the way comfortable, but I think you replace, at least on the offensive side, a decent amount of what you're getting out of Girard.
Okay, I agree with you.
What it would really do is completely remove any thought of bringing Eric Johnson back for me. If you get OEL on a cheap contract.
Yeah.
Not that I probably wouldn't do it anyway with EJ.
But how wild would it be if they got them both and you have like OEL and EJ?
A pairing that was hot fire 7 years ago.
This is how I feel looking at the free agency class. I'm like, if you would have told me 5 years ago that Vlad Tarasenko and Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane and Ryan O'Reilly all hit free agency, and everybody was looking at the free agency class going, ugh.
It's not great.
What happened?
Well, we had that conversation. It was like the Avs could just run it all the way back this offseason. Go get O'Reilly to be your 2C.
Yeah.
Paul Stastny can be your 4C.
Exactly. Yeah. What's Dan Winnick up to these days?
Yeah, he's just on the PHNX pod, right? I think.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I was just thinking third line guy.
Yeah.
Clement free?
Okay.
So anyway, we do want to talk about some of these forwards. I've
Yes.
seen three. Last night, I was just going through. I saw 3 separate mock drafts. These are just from random people.
Sure.
Like us.
Yeah, right.
That had the Avs taking Ethan Gauthier.
Okay.
3 different people, though.
Why? Yeah.
Were like,
What am I missing?
This is a good fit. And I was like, why?
I don't know.
I don't feel like it's a bad pick, but it doesn't do anything for me.
It wasn't even someone I had really considered for Colorado at 27,
same.
to be honest.
I do want to ask you.
Oh, boy.
Callum Ritchie.
Uh-huh.
I put in Discord last night. No thanks.
Yeah, I'm with you on passing on Ritchie.
Okay. Why are you out?
So when you look at the Avs forward core and their forward prospects, what I think Colorado needs to start doing a better job of, especially with pick 27, you need to get an NHLer out of it.
Okay. So what you're saying is don't target a guy who's not good at anything?
What I'm saying is you have to find the right balance. And I understand where I'm about to go, and everyone's going to say, well, they take Martin Kaut as a safe pick and he didn't work out, blah, 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 blah. But you need to pick a guy that you are confident your system can develop into an NHLer.
Okay.
I'm not saying be safe. I'm saying play to your strengths here.
Okay. Did they not do that with Olausen?
I think
Size, skating, shot, and it hasn't gone great so far?
I think they did a better job of doing that with Olausen. I just don't think Olausen's that good.
We were both pretty
Meh on the day. Yeah. Tried to talk myself into his shooting based on his junior career for the next month.
Yeah. I mean, shooting is good, but
I mean, honestly, he can beat NHL goalies, but it doesn't matter if he can never get open. So,
yeah.
Anyway, my point being,
this isn't really true, but I'm tired of this fight.
What fight?
It's been a while since the Avs have developed a talent outside the top 10 in the first round.
Pretty much not true at all.
Yeah.
But the Avs have had a lot more success developing defensemen than forwards.
It's really
history.
more of this. The Avs get this like pigeonhole of like, well, they haven't drafted and developed a guy,
which like,
and it's like, okay, while true, they did all of the developing of JT Compher. They did all of the developing of Logan O'Connor.
Yeah,
they've done all they. You don't think that what they got out of Ryan Graves was development? I mean,
well, you even like look beyond this and you go, okay, Connor Timmins obviously had his injury issues, but they developed an NHL player out of that guy when he's healthy.
Exactly. Alex Newhook and Tyson Jost are both NHL players. Now I know Tyson Jost was
disappointing.
A top 10 pick. But Alex Newhook at
16
is,
and hopefully still has some room to grow.
Well, yeah. Like if Alex Newhook gets no better and he scores 30-ish points every single year, he's going to be in the league for 10 years.
Yep. And you even look beyond that, and look, I get he's in Montreal now, but Justin Barron, they got a lot out of in the almost one full year he was with the organization.
Yeah, and Drew Hellison is pushing for the Ducks roster.
Exactly. Right now. And I get that development happened not in the AHL, but it's not like the Avs have not drafted well in the later first and second rounds. It's just they end up using those assets to go get other stuff.
The ones that it looks like they were going well, they ended up using in other ways where it was like, well, okay, no complaints.
And you're still, all of us are pretty high on Sean Barons as a second rounder. So,
and I mean, Justus Onanen at very worst is going to be a guy that you could say is a third goaltender in an organization.
He will get more NHL games in his career.
Definitely. So the Avs have been the worst in the league at this. There's like no denying that.
The last decade, they've been very bad at it.
There's no like getting around the fact that they've been bad at this, but it's this like very specific, they have not drafted and they have not done this. And it's like, okay, true. But they've also gotten the NHL players elsewhere. And that's the point. They've signed college free agents. They signed Alex Kerfoot. They turned Alex Kerfoot into Nazem Kadri.
And I think I don't even mind, like the Avs have understood this too, and that's why you've seen them move so many of their second and third round picks.
Right. That those are more valuable. Moving those guys consistently for NHL players that can play for you for multiple years are more valuable than drafting them.
Yep. So
and just taking the chance that guy turns out well.
The Avs have not solved this problem by drafting and developing players and holding on to them, but they have solved this problem by either trading the picks or trading the prospects.
Yeah. I mean, you look at those and it's like, look, okay, so if they're not very good at this, then them continuing to trade those picks for the Burakovskis and the Devon Taves is, those were obviously hits. Doing it for Lars Eller,
I think people underrate that.
I do
move a little bit, but it's not near like a Burakovsky.
The conversation, it sucks because he never got to play the role he was supposed to play in Colorado.
Right.
The guy ended his Colorado tenure playing 2C,
which is he's not that.
Like Jesus, man. Anyway.
Point being,
I want to talk about some forwards that we actually like at 27 because there's one guy that we really agree on.
Quentin Musty, huh?
So we're going to talk about Quentin Musty.
What's not to love?
I mean, you talk about power forward.
Yep.
He's a guy that plays with power. He's a guy that plays with, I think, a lot of intelligence and a lot of...
that's the part for me. He plays with intelligence. And my biggest thing, when I look at power forwards, the biggest thing I worry about, can he play with his teammates? I think a lot of power forwards fall into the trap of they're only effective when the puck is on their stick and they're basically getting ISO'd.
Yeah. And they're going to the net.
Yeah.
And, it's like an NBA guard that's only good at getting to the basket.
Like James Harden, who just one-on-ones everybody
Yeah.
No one's as bad as James Harden about it, but different topic.
Yeah.
And I see more of that. I see Musty's ability to facilitate a little bit more than a lot of these other power forwards, at least in the Avs potential range.
Yeah.
And look, I'm a sucker for a pass first player. I just am.
Well, you love guys that elevate the level of the line that they're on.
Yeah.
And you see the way that Musty plays, and he does that.
Yep.
You see the way that he has kind of just that impact when he's on the ice. It's not just about him. It's playing through his teammates. It's that they can play through him. And he's so smart and he's so gifted that, you know, for me, you're looking and you're saying it's probably if you really get what you want out of him, it's probably a second line player. But
yeah.
you could realistically, you're talking about, I think, a higher end third line guy.
You're talking about replacing JT Compher if you call Compher a winger. Like,
yeah, kind of. I mean, I think he could be a jack of all trades. Like,
yeah,
put him in a lot of situations. I love his game, man, and I'm hoping that teams love guys like Cal Ritchie and Nate Danielson.
Yeah, they go ahead and take those guys and let Musty fall. The other side of that.
It would hurt if they passed on him.
I would, depending on which D-men are there. Yeah, I'm with you.
Goalie.
I'm just not in on the goalie, but that can be your thing.
I would like to at least have some quick conversation about this, but okay.
I mean, yeah, we can definitely talk about it. But
yeah, I mean, what? So still no first round goalies? This is still like your hard and fast rule here?
There are first round goalies I could be convinced by, not in this draft.
Okay. I mean, I think that's fair.
I think kind of the same conversation we had about like an Aki. If the Avs wanted a goalie, you trade back to 35 or something.
If they traded back to 35 and 55,
just take goalie and Aki and be done with it.
I don't know who has those picks.
Me either. But.
Actually, I think Chicago should have 35.
Who knows on the 55?
Yeah, whatever. But I that would be you could take a D, you could take a goalie, you could take a goalie, you could take a D.
I would have no problems if that's how they want to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
I just don't think they should aggressively target a goalie at 27.
I'd be okay if it was Robble.
Yeah, I mean, I really wouldn't have
a
ton of interest in any other goalie in the first round, certainly.
Yeah. In the second round, it opens up to about 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah.
Last guy that I really kind of want to touch on here, Braden Yeager. I'm just curious. I'm just curious how you feel about him. He was a guy that had so much hype.
I really want every time I watch Braden Yeager, I go, wow, I think I like this guy. And then I keep watching him and I'm like, he's got all this fun skill. He does all this cool stuff and it's not going to work in the NHL.
I had somebody, I read a thing where somebody compared him and Barlow and said, if you watched one period, you would come out of it
liking Yeager more,
loving Braden Yeager.
But if you watch 3 games, you're like, whatever. Oh boy, yeah.
But if you watched 3 games, I think it was 5 games.
Sure, whatever.
They said, I bet you could get those guys. I bet you could get them to flip.
I
bet you could get at least half of them to change.
100% agree with that take. I think that's the perfect Braden Yeager conversation.
My thing with Yeager too is I think he's on my D&D.
I don't blame you for that at all. For sure,
I just don't. I don't think he plays hard enough.
It's again, I really struggle to see it translating to the NHL level with him. Not that he isn't fun, not that he doesn't have these skills in all this stuff, but when you're someone who plays that way, someone at that size, you have to be like Jack Hughes levels of talented at getting around people and just outworking everyone else on the ice.
Yeah, I just don't. I think that he is supremely talented, and the way that he goes about using the tools and the skills is what's holding him back. And for the record, I'd also have Saleh on my D&D.
Okay,
there's a couple. I would have Wood on my D&D.
I mean, I would not want Wood if I was the Avs, but I'm just assuming he's going before the Avs, so I'm not worried about it.
I would have Cristal on my D&D. So
okay,
I think Cal Ritchie sucks. So
I'm with you on Rich. I wouldn't have him at D&D, but I wouldn't take him in the first round. I'd put it that way.
Well, the Avs have picks at 27, and then their next pick is 150. So
again, living in a world where I'm just kind of assuming they're moving this pick one way or another. So.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we agree on this thing here. They should probably move it to solve the 2C problem.
Yep.
Is there any particular 2C? I look at it. I look at this giant list that I've procured every single day, and I don't have one that I prefer. For me, it's like I want them to sign Ryan O'Reilly so that they can use trade assets elsewhere.
I think O'Reilly is probably their best option today.
Yeah.
And, if they decide they really want to make something else work with a Schmaltz or whatever, I'm fine with it.
Clayton Keller.
But, let's see what the trade looks like before we make any crazy decisions. I just don't see PLD happening. I would love it, but I don't see it happening.
I know how much the Avs front office really likes him.
So it's like they always get their guy.
They always get their guy. Then we're back into the Kevin Hayes conversation.
I hope not, but
let me just real quick.
Yeah,
this rumor that Philly would retain and give him away for future considerations.
I mean, how much are they retaining? Like $2 million?
Yeah. So say they got it down to the Avs have to pay Kevin Hayes $5 million over the next 3 years. Yeah. And they give up no other assets for it.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
That.
I'm fine with
that. For 3
that.
years for Kevin Hayes.
Yeah. I'd be fine with it.
Shit. Me too.
I definitely could see it not working out, but if you get a free roll to try and solve that spot and give up nothing.
Yeah, and it's $5 million.
Right.
Like, yeah, I think that would be I would also rather Morgan Frost.
And why would they ever move Morgan Frost?
Why would they do that? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense from Philly's perspective, where them dumping Hayes makes sense.
All right. Any other draft things you want to touch on, or are we getting out of here?
No, I mean, we're still trying to figure it out, but we are really hopeful that next week we will be doing an all-city mock draft.
Yep.
Where we're going to get as many of the hockey people together
get
from the
PHNX,
All-City.
CHGO in here.
Yep. And we're going to try and do a full first-round mock draft.
Everybody gets 3 teams each, basically.
Exactly, where we all have assigned teams.
So we're going to go hard. We should also have lots of stuff.
Hopefully. That's on the way, but we will... That'll be before everybody leaves for the draft.
Yeah. Regardless of that, we will definitely have at least a handful of prospects that could go around 27. We'll have some video packages for them coming up next week.
Some guys that we
have interest.
We're just gonna try to throw a blind dart and hope
maybe we get lucky. Yeah.
Yep.
So
100%.
Keep your eyes peeled for more draft coverage there. And then, of course, on draft week, we will have tons of coverage from Jesse and Megan out at the thing.
We will have a live show.
We will be live, popping off, losing our minds when some guy not ranked gets taken in the first 10 and we somehow don't have a player card for them. It's going to be fun. Yes, that was so crazy. Anyway, we are brought to you by Bacchus and Shanker. You can call 222-2222 today. If you're taking strays from our podcasts and you think you deserve compensation, I don't think Bacchus and Shanker can help you with that because none of these prospects are from Colorado. But if you're in a car accident or you're injured at work, something like that, Bacchus and Shanker can help you get what you deserve. They will hear your case for free. They'll give you a free consultation. They think you have a case. They'll take it on for completely free. And you don't pay them anything until you win your case. So you just get what you deserve with Bacchus and Shanker. And they're really, really good at what they do. I don't know how to explain to people that aren't from Colorado that it's like, no, Bacchus and Shanker have been doing this my entire life. It's like since I was 3 years old, Bacchus and Shanker has been winning these cases. They've won over $1 billion for their clients over 25 years of doing it. Go check them out. You can call that 2 number today or go to coloradolaw.net. We are going to get out of here for today. I don't know if we're going to beat the rain home. Probably not.
Well, I have to go do TDSP.
Oh, you're definitely not beating the rain home then.
Nope.
But we appreciate all y'all hanging out, talking draft with us today. We will be back on Monday to talk probably more around the league stuff on Monday, but maybe some draft stuff in there too. Depends on what happens over the weekend. We appreciate all y'all, and we will see you on the next one.